It's not surprising that, as a workforce who traverse the globe, crew often find love and lust many miles away from home. And it's not unusual for those encounters to grow into something special either, with one of the two people involved eventually moving continents to begin a new life together. Well, today's story is one of those, and it was sent to us by somebody who was a friend of such a person. An onlooker to it all, perhaps with a slightly less rose-tinted perspective than the people living it. But we're going to leave the intro there, because, well, we don't want to give too much of the story away, do we?
Doors to armed and cross-check.
Come fly the red eye. Whoa.
Welcome aboard the Red Eye.
Las Vegas in the naughty noughties. The thing that Harriet, or Harry as her friends knew her, loved about flying with Saffron was that she opened doors. Not in the literal sense, not by pulling the handle herself, but because people opened them for her. To clubs and after parties, to shows and soirees, to VIP areas and exclusive rooftop bars. Because she was stunning. Long, glossy black hair, olive skin, almond eyes, cupid bow lips, and a figure to die for. But that wasn't all, because, let's face it, Vegas is hardly short of beautiful girls. Saffron simply had something else. An aura. Even Harry could see it, and she certainly wasn't one of those tarot-reading, ghost-seeing types usually. But there was something about Saffron. The way she carried herself. The way she smiled and somehow drew everyone in. A warmth to her that felt strangely unusual in a city built on excess and illusion. She loved to party, loved to dress up, loved the madness of Vegas layovers. But what set her apart from the others was that she did it all unaided. No drink, no drugs, just pure natural energy. She was pure, beautiful and pure. In fact, if Harry had possessed even the slightest inclination to swing the other way, she often joked to herself that she might have snapped Saffron up for herself. Harry pulled herself from the familiar little trance she always seemed to fall into whenever they flew Vegas together, following her friend towards the front of yet another enormous nightclub queue and watching her work her usual magic. No, they weren't on the guest list. No, they didn't know anyone with a table. And yet, somehow, within moments, the security guard was grinning, lifting the rope and waving them straight inside. Come on in, ladies. No charge, no hassle, no waiting like everybody else. Nope, just swan on in as if you own the place. All because your mate at the front has somehow cast a spell over the poor bloke on the door. And it worked. Every time. And here they were, slipping into a top Vegas club like they owned it, and drinking for free courtesy of men rich enough to buy bottles for strangers without even blinking. Harry and the others would get progressively more wasted as the night rolled on, while Saffron would sip bottled water and dance for hours completely sober, somehow still becoming the centre of attention wherever she went. How she was still single was honestly one of life's great mysteries. But, Harry thought as somebody passed her a fresh drink from the first table they reached, it wasn't a mystery she'd be solving tonight. She turned to thank whoever had handed it to her, but the words caught in her throat for a moment. Her eyes moved from the man directly in front of her to the others spread across the curved leather sofa behind him. What the... By the time she reached the last man, she found herself looking back along the line again, trying to work it out. They were all gorgeous. Not just polished or well-groomed either. No, they all looked oddly similar somehow. Ripped physiques beneath tight-fitted shirts, big arms, square jaws, thick white teeth and perfectly styled hair. The sort of men who looked less like ordinary people and more like a lineup from the cover of Men's Health magazine. Her eyes drifted back to the one now standing in front of her. "Oh, hi," she smiled, slipping effortlessly into her best flirtatious voice. "Thank you. So, do you come here often?" "We have a show here," he replied, flashing impossibly white teeth as he paused, clearly expecting her to recognize him. But she didn't. "Oh, wow." Harry took a sip of her drink, wondering whether she should ask what show he meant, or whether that would make her seem too eager. Better to play it cool. Keep him interested. She knew the game well enough by now. She chose the latter. "Oh, that's cool. Thanks for the drink. I won't be a minute. I just need to speak to my friend." She sidled off towards the others, feeling his eyes following her as she did. She had all intentions of reeling him in later, but not quite yet. "Who the heck found them?" she asked as she reached the others. She'd been at the back when they'd come in, so someone up front must have made the beeline for their table. "Ah, Safi, of course," Julie laughed. Harry rolled her eyes and laughed. Course she did. She glanced around for her friend, surprised to find Saffron actually sitting on the sofa beside one of the men, deep in conversation. That wasn't usually her style. Normally, Saffron got them through the door, found whichever group had the best table and the best drinks, and then disappeared onto the dance floor for the rest of the night, while everyone else flirted and drank around her. It was rare for anybody to capture her attention long enough to pull her into a one-on-one conversation like this. "Who are they?" Harry asked, suddenly intrigued, though not intrigued enough to ask the men directly. "They're in that show, the stripper one." The surprise nearly made Harry spit out her drink as laughter burst from her mouth. Of course! She could picture the billboard immediately. The giant adverts lining the strip with bronzed, muscular men wearing tiny black trousers and smouldering at passing tourists. She glanced back over her shoulder again, letting her eyes drift over the group once more, now mentally adding the missing stage outfits. Safi had somehow landed them a table full of Vegas strippers for the night. A group of huge, impossibly handsome beefcakes with unlimited drinks and VIP access. Harry wasn't entirely sure where that left her moral compass in that particular moment. She suspected she probably wouldn't be getting overly intimate with any of them, but still, as another giggle bubbled up inside her, she decided there were worse ways to spend a Vegas layover. Hey, you only lived once. And this, she already knew, would definitely become one of those stories. Her eyes flicked back to Saffron again. Her stunning, completely sober friend sat smiling softly at whatever the man beside her was saying. And Harry couldn't help but wonder what on earth he'd said to draw her in like that. Because Saffron was usually far more guarded than this. More observant, more difficult to impress. And yet, somehow, this one had managed it within minutes. What do you mean? It was a few days after they landed back into London when Safi called for a chat. And instantly, Harry could tell something was different. Her normal, calm and measured voice was a little bit higher, a tiny bit faster, and her thoughts a heck of a lot less sensible. "Look, I know it sounds crazy," Saffron said, "but I've honestly never met anyone like him before. He's just so kind and caring, and so lovely. I know what you're thinking, that he's probably a bit of a slag, but genuinely he isn't." "But how do you know that?" Harry asked, trying to inject at least a little common sense down the phone line. "You only met him last week." "I just do. He's told me everything about himself. I can tell he's genuine, that's all." "Well, if you're sure," Harry sighed. "Just have fun with it, yeah? Don't go marrying the bloke after 5 minutes." Saffron laughed. "Don't worry, I won't. Are you sure you can't swap onto the trip?" "I can't. I need to be back Friday," Harry repeated. Truthfully, another Vegas trip did sound tempting. But she already had plans that weekend, and besides, she suspected she'd end up as the third wheel now anyway. And if she was being completely honest, the idea of spending another night around the whole stripper gang wasn't exactly calling to her either. Watching the show itself really wasn't her thing. In fact, it gave her a slight ick if she thought about it too much. Vegas with single friends had always felt exciting. Vegas with a friend wrapped up in a holiday romance somehow felt very different. And then there was Riley, the one who had given her the drink. Harry had spent most of the previous trip batting him away while he smirked his way through half the female population of the nightclub. She'd used every ounce of willpower she possessed not to become just another notch on what was undoubtedly a very crowded bedpost. No, she was better than that. "Look, just enjoy yourself, okay, Saf?" she said finally. And then, after a small pause, she added, "And be careful, yeah?" "I will be, honestly." They hung up the phone, and Harry stood in thought for a moment. This was out of character for Saffron. Usually she was the composed one, the sensible one, the girl who stayed perfectly in control while everyone else spiraled around her. So either she was heading straight towards heartbreak, or there really was something special here. And she really hoped that it was the latter. Six months later. And here they were, Harry thought, as they had breakfast overlooking the Bellagio fountains. Against all of the odds, here was her friend, glowing even more than she'd thought possible, in a full-blown relationship with a Las Vegas stripper called Saul. "What's his house like?" one of the girls asked. Safi had been sat fielding questions this past hour. Last night she'd taken all the girls out to meet the dance troupe, as they now referred to them, after the show, and it had been a scream. Harry had to admit it was kind of cool having an insight into the machine behind Las Vegas, to see what went on behind the scenes. And the crew had naturally brought that crew energy along with them and turned the night into something bordering on wild. Some were still in bed, alone or not, and the rest of them were here, nursing hangovers and praying the Eggs Benedict and mimosas would save them. And Safi, hangoverless as always, sat perfectly poised amongst them as she answered every question. "Oh, it's nice," she said. "Definitely needs a woman's touch, if you know what I mean, but it's very modern and clean." "Have you left a toothbrush there yet?" "I might have." "You should buy him a houseplant or something." Not a bad idea." "I mean, it sounds like you practically live there anyway." "Yeah, it's starting to feel like it." She had been doing nothing but Vegas flights since they'd met, and whenever she had enough days off, she'd been flying out to see him there too. She was smitten, and by the looks of it, so was he. "What's the long-term plan, Saf?" Harry asked eventually. She'd seen how they both looked at each other. You could see the chemistry, but surely long-term it wasn't sustainable. Safi shrugged. "Who knows? I'm just getting out as much as I can. He can't get time off, but I don't mind." "Do you think you'd move out here?" Harry saw Saffron's cheeks flush and knew immediately that she had thought about it, even if she wasn't going to admit it. Her friend was someone who was always in control, and admitting to daydreaming about romantic fantasies really wasn't her style. "Oh, I think it's probably too early for that," she said, looking down at her coffee. Harry translated that in her own head to, "He hasn't brought it up, and I would never mention it first." And eventually, he did. Saffron could feel the butterflies in her chest. They'd been there for weeks now, ever since she'd agreed to give up her life here and move to Las Vegas. But she had to do it. Despite every cautious thought her brain tried to throw her, despite every what if her friends tried to dangle in front of her to consider, she had to go. Because not going, she'd realised, would be denying herself pure happiness. Not just the content happy that she thought was enough, but this hedonistic, unadulterated, pulse-quickening, breathtaking happiness that she'd only felt since she'd met him. So, when he'd asked her to move out there, to leave it all behind and build a life with him, she had immediately said yes. Because if she didn't, then she risked losing him. No relationship could last long-term across an ocean. Phone calls helped, but the magic was only really there when they were together. And now, she was going to have it 24/7. So, what was it about that perfect plan that these damned butterflies didn't understand? Why were they giving her anxious vibes? She would miss home, of course, but her friends had vowed to come out often, and Harry had put her on her staff travel list so that she could fly back and forth whenever she wanted. So, all in all, she was just giving up a car and a flat, in return for a different car and a house. Oh, and her job. But in return for that, she was getting her soulmate. She should feel excited, not anxious, surely. Maybe that was it, she thought, suddenly answering her own question. She wasn't anxious at all. This was just excitement. That tightness in her chest, that slightly unhinged feeling in her head, it was all just excitement. And with that thought, reframing everything, she pushed the envelope through the postbox and watched as it disappeared into the dark, about to make its journey to HR and giving her month's notice on her job. The job that she had loved for almost 10 years. She pushed the second envelope into the postbox, a similar message to her landlord, and as that disappeared, she hopped back home, ready to show the third person that day her little car. And as soon as that was sold, that would be it. Everything crossed off her to-do list, except for one final thing. Move to Las Vegas. That part came next. And that was that. Less than 2 months later, Saffron was living in Las Vegas. She still had to fly home every 3 months until the visa situation was sorted, but she didn't mind that. It had taken some adjustment, of course, but it helped that Saul was usually home during the day, and she didn't mind evenings curled up on the sofa watching TV. And her friends had stayed true to their word too. At least once a week since moving out there, she'd had a night where she felt like crew again, meeting up with whoever happened to be in town and still opening doors for them around the city like she always had. She had even more contacts in her little black book now, and she always had people flying out, asking where to go and for her to come with them. She crossed the bedroom towards the ensuite. The bedroom alone was bigger than her old flat back in Hertfordshire, and she'd quickly added her own touches to the place, making it feel like home. They'd even started talking about getting a dog soon, too, although Saffron knew they'd probably wait a little longer before making that commitment. She may have fallen in love and moved across the world, but she still had a sensible head on her shoulders. Now, where had she put those earrings? She crossed back through the room, checking her reflection in the mirror. Tonight, she was meeting Harry. Dinner first, and then wherever the night took them. She hadn't seen her closest friend for weeks and couldn't wait to catch up. Walking into the lounge, she spotted the missing earrings on the coffee table and scooped them up just as her taxi pulled outside. It was half an hour into the strip, but when Harry had suggested coming to hers, Saffron had quickly convinced her they should go out instead. Harry could come for lunch tomorrow. Tonight was for talking. And dancing. And they danced. God, I've missed this, Safi laughed as she and Harry hit the dance floor. Dinner had been light and she was ready to burn it off. They'd already done the full debrief over cocktails before instinct pulled them straight towards the nearest nightclub. "You've still got it," Harry laughed, still impressed by how easily her friend got them inside places. For a moment, it almost felt like nothing had changed, like they were just on another layover together. Harry watched Saffron glowing in the middle of the crowd and smiled. She could tell that she was genuinely happy here, though she still missed those monthly Vegas flights together, exhausting as they'd often been. Harry joined her, moving across the dance floor and feeling the music. She made eye contact with a few people, but tonight she wasn't looking for free drinks or hookups. She just wanted to spend time with her friend. And then somebody caught her eye. Someone she vaguely recognized. And just as she realized who it was, Saffron did too, throwing her arms around his neck and planting a huge kiss on his lips. It was Saul. "I didn't realize he was going to be here," Harry asked as they followed him off the dance floor towards a table. "Neither did I," Saffron giggled. "Oh, they often go out after a show, though, just to decompress." Harry felt herself frown slightly. If that had been her boyfriend, and she'd literally just moved to the country, she was pretty sure she'd expect him to come straight home, or at least know where he was. But Saffron genuinely didn't seem bothered. Not even when they reached the table and Harry spotted the familiar group of guys already there, along with a few girls too. She pushed the thought from her head, even when she clocked one of the women blatantly side-eyeing Saffron across the table. Saffron either didn't notice or didn't care. She just kept smiling, moving easily amongst them and even introducing herself to the girls. And Saul certainly wasn't acting like he had anything to hide either, grinning away with his arm around her. But that one girl, she refused to smile back. And judging by the way she looked at Harry too, she clearly had a problem with both of them. Why? Harry had no idea, but it didn't sit right in her stomach. "Harry, come sit." Safi was already tucked into the booth while the others moved along to make space. Harry slid in beside her, giving the girl a look that quietly said, "Don't you know who we are?" Because whether the others liked it or not, her and Safi weren't random girls blagging drinks anymore. They were part of the group now. Harry looked at the clock. It was only midday. She'd only been in bed 6 hours, so whoever it was could wait. It rang off, and then immediately started again. Groaning, she reached over for the handset and picked up. "Oh, this better be good. My head hurts," she moaned as she answered, expecting sympathy from whoever was on the other side, but instead, all she heard was sobs. "I'm in the lobby. What room are you in?" A few minutes later, Harry opened the door and barely recognised the woman standing there. Gone was the glow, the confidence, the aura that normally seemed to surround her. Instead, Saffron's face was blotchy and tear-stained, her whole body seeming smaller somehow, like someone had drained the light from inside her. "What happened?" Harry asked immediately, pulling her into a hug before she'd even fully stepped inside. Whatever this was, she already knew her friend needed holding together. He's been cheating on me with his ex," Saffron sobbed. Harry pulled back slightly to look at her. "But how?" Her mind flashed back to the night before. The way Saul had looked at her. The way he'd acted. He hadn't seemed remotely like a man hiding another relationship. "She turned up at the house this morning," Saffron whispered, sitting heavily on the edge of the bed and trying to steady herself. "Said one of her friends saw us together last night." Harry's mind flicked instantly back to the nightclub. The girl with the sour expression. Could that have been the friend? "Are you sure she's telling the truth?" Saffron took a shaky breath. That's what he tried to say. Said she wouldn't let him go, that she was obsessed with him, but Harry stayed silent, waiting for the rest. But then she pulled out a pregnancy test. The silence that followed felt crushing. And he didn't deny it. And there it was. Harry felt the full weight of it land all at once as she looked at her beautiful, vibrant, brave friend sitting broken in front of her. Her heart hadn't just been hurt. It had been crushed. And in the cruelest way possible. This girl had given up everything for him. Harry couldn't think of a single useful thing to say because, honestly, there wasn't one. So instead, she wrapped her arms around Saffron again and whispered the only thing she could think of. Karma will get him. Three months later, the two girls checked in for their flight to Vegas. Safi had just about pieced herself back together. She'd managed to get her job back too, and slowly but surely the old version of her was returning. She was smiling again now, laughing properly. The glow wasn't fully back yet, but Harry could see flashes of it. She still wasn't entirely convinced it was a good idea to return to Vegas so soon, but Saffron had insisted, and so Harry had agreed to come along in a supporting role. As it turned out, had most of their friends. The briefing room that morning contained 14 crew members and enough barely concealed rage to power the aircraft to Nevada without fuel. Because every single one of them had bought tickets to the strip show. And hidden away in various tote bags and carry-ons were banners, printed photographs, and every other ridiculous prop they'd managed to come up with during 3 glasses of wine and a group chat fueled by female fury. Saul had messed with the wrong girls. And Harry had a strong feeling that by tomorrow morning, somewhere in Las Vegas, one smug stripper might be wishing he'd simply stayed faithful instead.
The Red Eye podcast is written by Kaylee Kay, narrated and produced by me, Ali Murphy. These stories are based on true events, but certain details, characters, and timelines have been altered to protect the innocent. Visit our website, theredeyepod.com, to subscribe to our newsletter and to find out details on how you can contribute your story for us to turn into an episode. If you enjoyed listening to our stories, please like, subscribe, and review. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Red Eye podcast. You guys are why we do this. We love the stories that you have, and we love telling you the stories that people share with us. To help us reach more people and get the podcast really out there, we would really appreciate it if you left a review. It just helps our podcast be a little bit more visible. Thank you.